Ah, that must be the pizza. Finally. Took them long enough. Delivery times is not what it used to be. Let's have a look here. No. Oh, maybe not. Weird. Oh, no, must be. Let's go have a look. No. Are they pranking me again? Damn kids. What can you do? What?
Little pig let you in.
Heck no, I ain't letting you in. Get out of here. Stop punking me. You're not the delivery guy. Get out of here. Nope, doesn't look like there's anything there. Empty. Not even any pizza. Anyway, I guess I have to call for another pizza. As you can see, the dart trap definitely has its uses. If the delivery man isn't doing his job, it'll just take him out. Sadly, we can't guarantee any fresh pizza. Today is going to be a tutorial covering the dart trap, so you can build your defenses against pranking bikers or other zombies. As a new Alpha 16 electrical object, I personally find it very fun and interesting to use even pretty early game. But let's review it. To craft it, you need to have unlocked the ranged trap perk level 1, so it's accessible pretty early on. You do need science at 4 however, so do make sure you get that one up first, and that'll take a few levels. Crafting it, you need to ensure you have 20 forged iron, 6 mechanical parts, and 4 electrical parts. And of course, you need to craft it in the workbench as usual. The darts are crafted in the forge. They each take 3 iron and 1 clay. So if you have a steady supply of iron, they're pretty easy to churn out quite a few of them. So let's take some more here as well. And you want to make sure you have quite large quantities so you don't run out during horde nights. Looking at the dart trap lock, there are some important numbers. For one, it requires forged steel to repair. I'm pretty certain that this is an error because it's crafted with forged iron. Either way, it means you don't want it being damaged. Its fire rate is once every half second, and it's covered under the burst fire rate, and it takes 10 power to activate. Let's have a look at the damage it gives. As per the XML file, the dart trap has a damage to entities of 22 to 45. There is a block damage mentioned, but apparently it's not used, and it will not damage blocks in front of it. That's helpful, as stacking them opposite each other is often the way to place them. With an average damage of 33.5, 4 of them more or less takes out a standard zombie every time they shoot, and as covered they do this twice a second. That can help to quickly thin a larger group bashing at your door or your wall. Of course, zombies with more hit points will take increasing amount of time to kill. There's also a bleed out buff which can be triggered, but even if it does apply to zombies, which I believe it's not intended to at least, at a rate of 1 damage per second, that's going to take an awfully long time to kill anything living and to re-kill anything that is dead. Maybe in PvP it might have some use, as it also decreases stamina for 50 seconds it's active. So now that we have a bunch of darts and a dart trap, let's hook it up and show how it works. So you'll want to put it down with the dart holes facing the direction of fire. And right now that's upward, so let's turn around. You'll need to connect it to power, so let's do that here. I'm going to connect it to a switch. You have to, of course, connect it to power, an activation item. So I'm going to hook it up just to the switch here for demonstration purposes. You'll hit E to interact with it, And you see you have 3 slots for the darts themselves. Each can hold 500, so it'll last a fair while. If you can remember to put it correctly. You have to lock the ammo as well, otherwise like all traps it will not fire. So let's flick the switch. As you can see in here, the trap starts to fire the darts continually while power is applied. There is no targeting. It just shoots forward. At longer distances, there is some degree of gravity drop, so do take that into account if you're looking to shoot longer distances. There's no targeting like the turrets, so you have to use some kind of trigger input to determine when to shoot. So let's run some tests. So I'm going to show you here a pretty basic setup. It has 4 dart traps covering this doorway. Let's spawn in a zombie. Let's bring in Zombie Bo to help us test. As you see, much like the pizza delivery man, it will take out zombies pretty fast as they pound on your door or on your wall. There are, however, a few things that you need to look out for. Firstly, if you try to cover open corridors, while walking zombies are likely to get hit once or twice, they will pass by normally, forcing you to layer them in multiples, and that helps a bit, but you're wasting a lot of darts. If the zombie is running, such as at nighttime, whether it's a feral or maybe it's an always run zombie, darts might not even hit at all. I previously experimented with using electrical fences, barbed wire, to slow them down, and while that helps to some degree, it quickly starts to becoming quite unwieldy and unpredictable. Let me show you what I mean with the second set of dart traps. Let me spawn in a walker here. Let's have Darlene. Let's turn it back on. So she'll walk and she'll get hit, but she makes it up alive. And of course that's not what you want. Now we spawn a feral one. Let's see if we can find a feral one. She basically just runs straight through, and of course you don't want that to happen either. So, much like Indiana Jones, darts are just not best used for shooting across entire corridors, because the zombies will just walk or run past. You could consider shooting outwards along the corridor instead if you have long corridors to defend, and this can be pretty effective. But it's probably not common in base builds because you do need those long corridors, and well, you might hit yourself if you're standing in the way. Another thing to note is that crawling zombies generally pass underneath. And you're going to see that here. So let me spawn in, well, let me turn on the trap again. And let me spawn in a crawler. You see he'll crawl up. And nothing happens. He's triggering the tripwire, but he's too far down to be hit by it. And of course, that's a bit of a problem. If you place inverted steel spikes underneath, for instance, or you cover it with the electric fences, that can help, but it's just not really the best way of handling it, because crawlers left alone, it will run the dart trap dry and eventually bash its way in. Something to always keep in mind is that, like all traps, is that they need to be protected. While the trap does have a fair bit of hit points, you don't want to destroy it, leaving a gap in defenses and losing all the darts. And while placement can avoid zombies directly targeting, zombie cop explosions nearby would cause potentially heavy damage. A good way is simply place it behind an arrow slit. I'm going to put that here. You could of course place general bars as well. But I like to use arrow slits. Not only does it look great, it also protects from zombie bashing as well as cop explosions. 2 for the price of 1. Just remember to leave some access so you can still refill the trap as and when necessary. So let's see how that looks here. And I'm also going to turn on the electric fence here. And the fence is just an easy and cheap way of keeping the sets motionless and not damaging your walls or doors needlessly. Since it also does damage every second, zombies die even faster. Let's turn everything on. You see, even if they wanted to bash the dart trap, they simply would not be able to until they destroy the arrow slit. Let's spawn in another zombie biker. Doesn't just the electro fence look great? And together with the dart traps, I mean, they should take him out really, really fast. So how do you trigger dart traps best? Well, if you've seen my electricity tutorials, you've heard me talk about it in 3 ways. There's the tripwire, which is simple and effective. There's the trigger plates, the 1x1 and 1x5. And there's the motion sensor. Whichever you use, it really depends on the situation. The tripwires are cheap and easy to use. They can cover up to 15 blocks, so they have a fair range of detection. Because they can be placed at different heights, be it feet or chest level, that gives some adaptability. The wire goes through blocks, and again that helps to just protect them because you can place them behind blocks and not expose them to the zombies. Trigger plates, on the other hand, are nice. And if you place them upside down, they will still work to trigger, and it preserves loot. For individual compact solutions, they are great, but they do have a problem in Alpha 16.3 with lag, so use them very sparingly until that is fixed. When you've leveled up the perks, the motion sensor can be very useful for triggering all sorts of traps. As you can set it to oversee a specific area and trigger on only certain inputs, such as zombies or strangers, you build in sort of semi-intelligence into when the traps fire. This keeps you from being killed by your own traps, and of course that's very helpful. Placement becomes very important, so you're covering the angles that you want to. And whichever way you choose would really depend on your build and your preferences, and making use of all of them in different situations is definitely possible. That's generally what I do. And with that, we're bringing this tutorial to a close. If you've enjoyed it, if you feel it's been useful, do leave a like and subscribe to get notified of my next videos. And remember, the pizza delivery men sometimes are at your door hoping for a takeaway, not for making delivery. Time to call for another pizza.